It's Miss Jackie, and today I am here to do a fun craft with you celebrating Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Now, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley was born August 30th, 1797. And why are we doing a craft celebrating her and her birthday? Well, when she was just 18 years old, Mary Shelley was with her husband, Percy Shelley, visiting the author Lord Byron. And when they were there, it was very cold, very rainy, and they decided to see who could write the best ghost story. So the three of them spent a couple days writing their story, and in the end, Mary Shelley ended up writing Frankenstein, or a modern Prometheus. Now, this book, of course, was published in 1818, and it is considered to be one of the first works of science fiction. While there were other works that came out, this one was considered to be the one that really defined the genre, thus making Mary Shelley, who again was only 18 when she wrote it, to be the creator of the science fiction genre. So this book has had a huge influence on pop culture. Everybody knows it and we all know about it. So what are we going to do today? Well, in honor of this book, today we are going to be painting Frankenstein's monster on terracotta pots. So let's go ahead and get started. For this activity, we are going to need a pot. I have a terracotta pot, but really you could use any kind. We're going to need paintbrushes, and of course, we're going to need paint. The colors I'm going to use today are green, white, and black, but Frankenstein really could be any color because technically he wasn't even green. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take our terracotta pot and we're going to paint everything green from the bottom of the ridge down. So let's go ahead and get started doing that. All right, so once we have that green, we might end up doing 2 coats, but for right now, 1 coat is going to work. So we're going to set that down. We're going to set this paintbrush aside. I'm going to grab another one, and we're going to paint this part black. Now, when we paint this part black, we'll probably end up going down here, but this will be the perfect time to let the bottom part dry while we paint the top part. Now, one thing is that you don't really have to paint the inside, but it also depends on what you're going to be using your pot for. So just because I'm not quite sure what we're going to put in here yet, I'm going to go ahead and paint just a little bit down inside. So that way, whatever I put in here, if it's a plant or anything, that part will be black as well. I'm not going to go too far down. Just enough to kind of give it that color a little bit. Again, this is another one you might need 2 coats, you might not. It just kind of depends. We're losing this Frankenstein, so we'll put him over there. And of course, you're probably gonna get paint on your hands. If you've seen my videos, usually that's what happens. But, all right. So it looks like that is good. So now what's going to happen is it looks like if your green's not dry, you're gonna wanna let it sit and wait for it to dry. Mine actually isn't too bad. So what I'm going to do now is give mine just a little bit of hair that comes down around. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect because it's Frankenstein's monster, and so he's not exactly the perfect human being. So we're just gonna do some triangles that go down. This brush might be a little big, so I'm gonna go ahead and set it aside and grab something just a little smaller, just so I can get some more definition in there. Of course, smaller brushes means it takes a little bit longer, but sometimes you just have to take some time to really get it to look like what you want. So let's go ahead and go in and do Frankenstein's hair. right, so now his hair is painted on. Now I did notice that my fingers did touch some of the pot, and there might be a few spaces where the terracotta shows through. So I'm just gonna go through, just give it a little bit of a brush up. It doesn't really have to be perfect unless you want it to be perfect, but it is Frankenstein's monster, so I think we can get away with it having some smudges. Now, if you notice when I did his hair, I went ahead right here where I know his face is gonna be, and I shortened the triangles of his hair because I didn't want them too low to where we're going to be putting his eyes. So what we're going to do next is paint his eyes on there. So we're gonna take another paintbrush, take some white, and you're gonna wanna decide where you want the bottom of his mouth to be, where you want his eyes to go, and how you want that to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint his eyes on. We're going to just do 2 circles right here. I don't need to make them super big because I am gonna go in with the black to kind of outline them. And so that's gonna give it just a little bit more space. We just want enough so that it works. And of course there are different techniques to doing this. What I like to do is I like to dab first just to get a general outline on how the eyes are gonna be, and then I can go in and smooth them later. Now the problem with eyes, as most people know, is it's really hard to get one that looks like the other. So if you can, awesome. If not, I wouldn't stress about it. Frankenstein is made up of many different parts, and who's to say that he has 2 of the same eyes? But the other thing is when we do that black line, it's gonna help clean a little bit of that up. Okay, so that's gonna be his eyes for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let those dry. So I'm going to let it sit for just a second because it is wet. Well, actually, you know what we're gonna do instead? While we're waiting for the eyes to dry, I'm gonna go in and I'm going to give Frankenstein just a couple stitches. You can put something on the back. Really, this part is up to you on how you want extra details to be on your monster. But let's go ahead and stitches are really easy. You just do a line. I go ahead and just do mine all black. But you could, if you wanted, maybe do a black line like this. And maybe you want a little bit of contrasting color, so you might take white, make sure my hand is steady, and draw the lines like that. So really you could do it either way. Again, the details really just depend on how you want it to look, where you're going to be putting this. Maybe you're gonna have it on a bookshelf and so you don't really need that many things in the back. Maybe you're going to put it outside and so detail is important as people walk around it. Or maybe you just really want it to look good all the way around. So that's pretty easy. So the next thing we're gonna do is we are going to draw his mouth. I'm gonna go ahead and give mine just kind of like a little wonky smile laugh. Almost maybe kind of scarecrow or jack-o'-lantern. Like this. And then up like that. If you don't know what to do for your face, there are plenty of pictures on Pinterest or even the internet if you type in Frankenstein terracotta pots, and they'll give you some ideas, or you could just look up Frankenstein and see if there's a drawing that you like that might have something that kind of sparks your interest. Now, one thing I like to do is give him a little bit of a tooth on front, so I'm going to do a small triangle right there. There we go. And I also think he needs some eyebrows. So I'm going to do my eyebrows just off to the side. Not very big, but enough. And we'll do one on this side. I don't want it too close to the eye because I am going to go back in and outline the eyes. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to outline these. Make sure you take your time. There's no rush, and you want it to look good when you put it up. I mean, we're very generous on how our Frankenstein's gonna look because he is made of different parts, and so we don't have to be so strict, but you also want to be just a little careful when you put it on. Okay, so now everything is on there. Oops, actually, not everything's on there. His tooth, I'm gonna go ahead and outline that as well. There we go. So the last thing he needs are his eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have his eyes kind of just be in the center. So we're just going to do a half circle like that. A half circle like that, and then just paint them in. You could technically do this part before you do the white if you wanted to. Or you don't have to. This eye is a little bit smaller, but there we go. That is Frankenstein's monster. It's alive! We have made a Frankenstein's monster. Now, when you're all finished and it's dry and it's ready to go, you're going to want to think about what do you want to put in here. If you're going to be putting rubber bands or knickknacks or even a fake plant, you probably should put a layer of Mod Podge over it just to protect the paint from rubbing off or anything like that. If you're going to be putting actual plants in here, you're going to want to get a sealant spray. That's going to protect your paint from the sun so it doesn't fade, as well as any water or just weather that's going on. So it'll give it a real good protection against the elements. Now, you can do this in any size. You can do big pots, little pots. This is the one I just did, and then this is one that I've done before. It's just a little one, not a lot going on, and it has just a $1 succulent. This one just has Mod Podge over it, so it'll just sit on my bookcase. So that is how we make these great monsters. If you would like to learn more about Mary Shelley or even read Frankenstein yourself, stop by the library. We have plenty of copies and I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you for joining me today and I hope you have an amazingly fantastic day. Bye!